Today we will be discussing a very important aspect of writing, and this is the idea development. So when we say idea development, it is an essential part of writing that helps us organize our thoughts in a logical and clear manner. That also aligns with the writer's purpose. And to achieve this, we need to use the appropriate grammatical signals or expressions, which we already discussed last week. And one way to effectively develop ideas is by following different patterns of idea development. So today we will talk about the different patterns of idea development and what are the different grammatical signals used in each patterns. Now, what are patterns of idea development? So it refers to the structure of writing and how the ideas are being presented. Now, the commonly used patterns of idea development are narration, cause and effect, compare and contrast, or we call it claim or counterclaim, and the problem solution. Let's first discuss the narration pattern. It is used to tell a story that often gives information of who, when, where, and what happened. It includes series of events that usually lead to the conclusion or ending. It uses grammatical signals that indicate time and sequence. So basically, the narration pattern used to tell sequence of events. And these are some of the grammatical signals that we can use in this pattern. We have first, second, third, meanwhile, and so on. Here is an example text that uses the narration pattern. Here we can see it uses the grammatical signals in the beginning, at the same time, and eventually. These signals the sequence of events, what happened first and what happened next. Let us proceed to the second pattern, which is comparison and contrast, or also called claim or counterclaim. This combines two techniques, which is comparison and contrast, as the name suggests. So I hope you still remember our topic about comparing and contrasting. So in this pattern, it highlights comparison, which is the similarities between two or more topics, focusing on their characteristics and qualities. While contrast identifies differences between topics. So in a pattern of comparison and contrast, we can see two ideas, similarities and its differences. Now, here are some grammatical signals that we can use in comparing or comparison. We have similarly, like, in the same way, and etc. And for contrast, we have despite, whereas, however, and so on. My example text that uses compare and contrast pattern. However, although the maiden was blessed with a beautiful face, she remained humble and diligent to her work in the fields, just like her late parents. Here in the first sentence, we can see the comparison, the similarities of the maiden and her late parents. So the grammatical signals used is just like. While in the second sentence, she was mocked and laughed at by most village people, yet she ignored them and instead she focused on doing well in her work. The second sentence showed contrast. So, and the grammatical signals used is the word yet. Now, the third pattern is the cause and effect. It is a pattern that used to explain how an event or action leads to another. The word cause means to pose a question of why something happened, while the word effect means to pose a question of what happens. This pattern often highlights the relationship of topics involved and how it can affect the others. So in this pattern, we can still also see two ideas, what happened, why it happened, and what happened. Here are some grammatical signals that we can use in this pattern. We have due to as a consequence, and so, hence, therefore, as a result, thus, and for this reason. And take note, these grammatical signals can also use on the different patterns, but it depends on the pattern, what or how it functions. So here is an example text that uses the cause and effect pattern. Here we have the maiden in the wooden bowl was left alone as her late parents died due to sickness and old age. This is the cause. And the grammatical signals used is due to. And hence, she decided to work in order to provide for herself. This is the effect. Because of the maiden was left alone, so he decided to work. So here we have the cause and the effect, and through or by the grammatical signals, we can easily identify it. Now, now the last pattern we have is the problem solution. It is used to identify problem and then suggest solutions. A problem is generally described as an unsatisfactory situation that causes troubles or difficulties, while a solution is any method or action to be executed in order to avoid or get rid of the problem mentioned. So in this pattern, we state the problem and then we state the solution. So this involves a profound explanation of the problem and how it affects the subjects involved that is consequently followed by alternative solutions. When we want to write something that highlights a problem and we want to suggest a solution, then we will use this pattern. Here are some of the grammatical signals that we can use in a problem solution pattern. We have alternatively, because of this, as a consequence, and etc. Here is an example text that uses this pattern. So here we have the beautiful maiden has to wear the wooden bowl around people to hide her face from them. Here in this text, the solution was stated first, and then we have the grammatical signal otherwise, which signals the problem. Her stunning beauty may bring danger. This is the problem. Her beauty brings danger, and then the solution, he wears, she wears the wooden bowl. So that's problem solution pattern. So in summary, we discussed four common patterns of idea development. So when we say narration, it helps in telling a story in a clear sequence. Comparison and contrast, it highlights similarities and differences. Cause and effect explain relationships between events, and problem solution presents issues and possible resolutions. So it is important to know different patterns of idea development so that when we are writing, we can distinguish what kind of pattern we need to use depending on our purpose. So when we want to tell a story, we follow the narration pattern and we follow the different grammatical signals that are appropriate for it. So that's it about patterns of idea development. And then in our next lesson, we will talk about how to write different patterns of idea development using grammatical signals. That's it for today. Thank you and see you in our next class.